Hello everybody, this is Brian Stosh, the head of coaching and training here at the Automotive Training Institute. Today I'm going to talk just a couple minutes on presenting a repair order. Now, we believe there's a certain way a repair order needs to be delivered. And we're going to walk through just a couple little key pieces on this one, but I think the first one, when it comes to presenting a repair order, the first thing that needs to be talked to Mr. or Mrs. Customer is about the original request. The original request and what they came in for. Because to be honest with you, at this particular point, the only thing they want to hear about is why'd they come in the door. What they walked in the door for, whether it's big, little, find it or you didn't. The first thing that we need to address is what that original request was. If it's a basic oil service, let them know that it's been taken care of, yada, yada, yada. If it happens to be brakes, I want to address those particular scenarios or particular problems that went on with the brakes. Now, once I get through that original request, and I also like kind of building my estimates along with my presentation style, is I want to address anything that I can package around the original request. Now, this will do a couple things for you. It will help you with your part labor ratio. It will help you increase your average repair order. But what I'm truly talking about here is let's go back to the brake scenario. If a customer has a problem with brakes, and you know it's pads and rotors, or whatever the real scenario is, what could we package around that original request? With things like a brake fluid exchange, maybe a rotate and balance, any other particular services that would help complement the brake package. But of course, you know that when we come to presenting repair orders, or better yet, packaging around requests, it needs to meet three requirements. It better be good for the car, it better be good for the customer, and it needs to be good for the shop. Not only profitability, but can we stand behind our product? So when presenting a repair order, original request first, then anything that gets packaged around that request. And depending on the skill level or the confidence or the relationship you have with customer, do I want to go for a close and ask for the price tag on that original request now? Again, I will tell you, it depends on the confidence of the writer as well as the relationship with the customer. But before I go any further, or after I address that original request, and I know you guys heard us talk about courtesy checks for a long time, the courtesy check is going to be the second thing I bring up in my presentation. I've already addressed the original, now it's time for the courtesy check. But when presenting the courtesy check findings, the things I want to talk about first are the things that I found that are in good shape, the things that need no attention. That will definitely help you with the confidence and trust the consumer has with you as a service writer. And then I want to let them know that we did have a particular couple areas of concern. Then I'm going to address my areas of concern from that courtesy check finding. And then when all said and done, after I've addressed the original request, talked about the goods on the courtesy check, talked about the areas of concern, then I want to present my maintenance findings based off of mileage on the odometer. So when it comes to presenting a repair order, let's do this in steps. Original request first, the good findings from the courtesy check second, the concerns from the courtesy check third, and then finally your maintenance recommendations based off of the mileage on the car. And again, a quick little tip is I'd build your repair orders or build your estimates following that same level of thinking, because if you ever get hit, or when you go for that final close, Mr. and Mrs. Customer say no, then I can start to back out the opposite way. Drop the maintenance first, then address the original request and courtesy check findings. By doing it this way, you create confidence and trust, and you will increase your average repair order. Again, this is Brian Stosh from the Automotive Training Institute. Thanks for watching.
Hello everyone, this is Matt Winslow. Welcome to the new year. We're going to have an exciting new year. This month we're going to cover a timely topic, presenting a repair order, how to increase gross profit and average ticket by just doing it right. And we have two of our team leaders on the phone today. We have George Zeeks.
Hey everybody.
And we have the fabulous, handsome Mike Haley. Mike, say hello.
Good afternoon everyone.
And as always, I'm your host, Matt Winslow. George and Mike, you're up.
Well, today's topic is, again, presenting a repair order. So, George, I guess let's start with step one. What is the first step in properly presenting a work order?
Well, like Brian talked about in the video, the first thing you have to go over is the original request because of the fact that that's what the customer came in for. I've known writers that have tried to shortcut that process and present that last. It just doesn't work because they're not going to pay attention. The thing that they're interested in, what they came in for. Once you kind of put that to bed, if it's, like say they came in for a problem, they thought they had a problem with the brakes, maybe there was a squeak or something, and maybe it's not really a problem after all, by letting them know that, hey, this is what we did, this is the process we went through, we checked it out, we measured everything, took all the tires off, explained that whole process, and let them know that, hey, fine, everything's good. But while we were doing it, then we also took a look at doing the courtesy check, and we found some other things. That opens it up. But you have to definitely deal with that original request absolutely first.
George, what I find out that happens sometimes too is that we qualify for the customer. The customer does come in with the original request, but we determine that that's not a major issue, and then I used to requalify, or I see service writers requalify and say, well, that's not important. Here's what is important, and let's talk about this. So absolutely agree with you, George. We got to go to the original request of the customer and address that first. Okay, so after the original request is talked about, where do we go?
Let's kind of tie this in with the original request first, because the next step here, and Brian in the video talked about brakes. Let's talk about a car that ran hot. Let's pick something a little bit different, because a lot of people miss this. So if the car ran hot and you're going through and you're having the conversation with them, first of all, I always, whenever I'm talking to a writer or a manager, I say, don't say, did the car overheat? Because guess what? Overheating is on the side of the road, the hood's up, steam's pouring out of it. That's what people think about when they're thinking overheating. Now, we think of overheating as long as it went into the red, it overheated. So I recommend these words, did the car run hot? Did it run into the red? So once we go in there, we check that out. We find out, okay, the antifreeze is low. We pressure check it. We find we've got a leaking water pump, that we can address that original request. Now we need to package also around that original request. And for you listeners out there, think about the other things that you should be including in there. Okay, fine. So we're going to do a water pump. Okay, fine. Maybe if it's got a timing belt that's driven by a water pump, we're going to do that. Maybe we'll be doing a thermostat too. But there's a couple things a lot of people, we're going to do the coolant, don't forget that. But a couple things that people forget, if this car ran hot, that oil is not going to, it's going to denigrate. It's not going to be the same viscosity. It's going to be damaged. That really should be changed too, especially if it was driven for any length hot, especially if it was driven until it stopped hot. The other thing that you have to keep in mind, if you were really low on antifreeze, again, due to a leaky water pump, what's the other thing that you need to change? Well, there's something else up in that radiator. How about that transmission cooler? That transmission fluid's going to denigrate too. It's going to go bad. It's not designed to be heated. It's designed to be cooled. And if all you guys is super hot steam flowing through there, you're probably not doing that fluid any good either. So think of the other items that you may need that need to be packaged around that original request that the customer is really not going to think of, because they're going to say, well, it ran hot, a water pump's leaking, replace just the water pump.
The beautiful thing about the systems of a vehicle is they all intertwine and they all work together, and everything has a related item or a related service that goes with it. It's us as the professionals to take the time to make sure we do a good diagnosis and we do the right presentation with the right services. Very, very good, George. All right, so we've addressed the original request. Then where do we want to take the customer?
Okay, also, one of the things that we want to do, I don't care if we're doing a flat repair, because I get into that with customers a lot. If the car came in for brakes, if the car came in for alignment, if the car came in for it ran hot, we still need to do a courtesy check. Even if it's something as simple as, we're doing a oil change, we're doing a tire rotation, we're going to do a courtesy check. They were in 3 months ago. We need to go through and check that car out, make sure that they're fine, make sure that they're safe. And then let's deal with the overheating problem. So the car came in and ran hot. We already packaged some other items around there. Whether they're a regular customer or not, we owe them the responsibility to go through and check everything else. Maybe at some point the belt has gone bad. Maybe last time they were in, the air filter was a little dirty, and now it really needs to be changed. Maybe it was perfectly fine last time. We didn't need to change it. And since then, they went down to Farmer Joe's. They went through that dirty dirt road, and now the air filter's all clogged up. We don't know where they've been. Got to do that courtesy check and do a good one and make it consistent every time so that we can make those additional recommendations.
So when you're doing the courtesy check, George, what you're saying is we want to build value with what we're doing too, a total service, and we also want to talk about the good things that are going on with the car as well, right?
Absolutely. Tell me more about that one, Mike.
Well, to build value and to show that we're doing right by the customer and right by the vehicle, I want to tell them all the things that are working correctly with the car. As a professional, my job is to say, hey, here's what's going well with the car. You have this system that's testing out fine, this system's working fine, this system is working as designed. I'm building value with the customer to say, your car's got value. It's worth the investment that you're spending today. So I want to go over those things first. And also, like George said too, the things that are marginal, I want to tell them that they're marginal. And if I feel that we don't need to do anything to it today, I want to build value with that too today. So it doesn't feel like my hand's in their pocket. I want to say, the serpentine belt, it's starting to show wears of you know, some a little bit of splitting and cracking. I don't think it's in a condition I want to replace it today, or we should replace it today. Do you want to keep an eye on it, and maybe in the next service we'll talk about it. Customers appreciate that. They want to know things that are coming up, but we don't need to do anything with it today. So just some examples of that. And then obviously we are going to then talk about the things that are definite concern. It's either past, it's present life that it should be replaced, or it's actually in a broken state and needs to be replaced. Okay?
Things about that too. I mean, no one wants to wait until the dishes are all the way full of overflowing on the sink. Why don't we do 1 or 2 dishes right now, and then we can do the rest of this. It doesn't become a big mess. And when we're talking about this courtesy check, we're talking about stuff done. That's a big thing too, because if they're coming in for something that's traumatic, we want to let them know what's coming up, into the future. Maybe they can do it today, maybe they can do it later. But no one wants to come in and spend $1,000 every time. So if they keep up on that stuff and follow the courtesy check, you're absolutely right, Mike. It's going to work out better for the customer. They're going to be a lot happier. So, Mike, what's the next step here? What would you do next?
Well, we've addressed the original request. We've created service packages around the original request. We've gone through the courtesy check. So we've done a pretty good job of going through the car. The only really thing I can think to talk about after that point is the mileage maintenance services that are due. And just like George said, people don't like believe it or not, they like us and they like spending time with us. They don't like coming back to us too frequently. So if we can go ahead and give them a good synopsis of the car and look at the odometer and look at their current mileage and note that they are also ready for their mileage services, give them that opportunity to have that service done at the same time. You're doing a great service by the customer. You're doing a great service for the car. You're also combining so they don't have to come back for yet another visit to you.
Also keep in mind the fact that let's say they came in for a noise. Let's say it was a brake noise. And let's say the brakes are fine. Maybe they're due for a 3K service, or they're due for a 6K service, or 15 or a 30. Once you get the customer in that pattern where they're doing the 3, the 6, the 15, the 30K, the major, the minor services, depending on how you want to look at it, what that's going to do is that's going to create a habit where they're coming back to you time after time after time. And then they know next time, okay, I'm doing a 3K today. Next time, I'm going to need a tire rotation. Typically, what is that? That's a 6K, so you plant that seed ahead of time. Oh, geez, okay, next time I'll be due for a 15,000-mile service. And that way they can budget that in for you. And if you get a program and they're used to doing that, the car's going to be a lot safer for them. It's going to be a lot cheaper for them because they're not going to put stuff off forever and ever on end and then come up with that $1,000 bill either. So get them programmed into that maintenance stance so they'll be happy customers will be coming to you on a regular basis, constant, frequent, 3 to 4, 5 times a year, and they'll be doing the right thing for the car, right thing for the customer, and the right thing for the shop.
All right, George, well, let me ask you this then. Car comes in, the customer for an original request. We then find out what is that original request, what is causing that. We wrap a related service around that, and then we also go through the courtesy check. We find some things about that, and we also notice that it's time for a maintenance package. So the customer came in for one thing, and we're now suggesting 4 things. Sometimes, and especially in today's day and age, they might not be prepared for all 4 things after I've just recommended them all. So how would you suggest I go about readjusting my original estimate after I've asked for it twice and they say, geez, I just can't afford to do all those things right now? Where do I go?
I love the way Brian explains it in the video. If I build my estimate in sections, 1, the original request, then the courtesy check, then the preventive maintenance, and he talks about how you can back out the same way, just come out backwards. You still have to deal with that original request because that's why they came in for. That's the major problem. Then off the courtesy check, let's deal with the items that need to be done. Okay, the preventive maintenance items, let's hold off on that. We still let them know. They have to be informed. They have to be prepared. So maybe they need to budget that for their next visit. But now, maybe we could let that slide for now if it's a budget issue. So we deal with the original complaint, and then we deal with the items on the courtesy check. What would you do after that, Mike?
Well, the way I like to look at it, George, I like to look at it, well, since football season's over and the Ravens lost, I like to look at it like baseball. You know, my first swing was a home run. I tried to swing for the home run. Couldn't get the home run, so the original request was the single. And if I did a good job of getting the related services with it, I got a double. And my hopes is that I at least get a double out of every customer that comes in, that they're going to see the value in taking care of the original request, taking care of the related services that go along with that original request. And if I can get anything that's recommended that's broke off the courtesy check, I'm going to consider that a triple. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do the right thing by the customer for what is broke, what is a safety issue, what is a really something that they need to get taken care of. I want to go ahead and package that for them first. Then what I want to do is I want to get a commitment from them, and I want to set them up for the next service. I want to say, okay, I fully understand you can't do everything today. I get that. Let's come up with a plan that works for both you and I and the car so we get the things handled and we get them done in a timely fashion that works for you, and works for the safety of the vehicle. So I'm going to put a plan together. I'm going to then go ahead and get another appointment date. I'm going to set the stage of what we're going to do, about how much that's going to cost, and about how much time that's going to take. Customers really appreciate you taking the time to work with them and work a plan to solve all the issues that they have with their vehicle. They came in with one, you identified 4 or 5, they weren't prepared for that, so we now have to break it out so we can get a plan together to get all these items taken care of.
One of the coaches here, her sister actually went in for an eye exam, and when the guy with the optometrist was checking her eye to see if she needed glasses, it turned out the problem with her vision wasn't glasses. She actually had a tumor that he saw through her eye. He saw that there was something wrong in there. Sent her to a doctor, and it was a benign tumor, but thank goodness they caught it in time. That really is the same thing that we're doing here. Okay, when we make that plan, think of it like this: at every shop, you got to have some kind of way of breaking this thing down into payment plan. I'm not saying that you should carry financing, but the shop owner, you're going to take care of credit cards. Maybe MasterCard, Visa, Discover. Maybe you're carrying American Express. Not a lot of people do that these days. Can they make payment plans off of that? Absolutely. Can we have an in-shop credit card, Car Care One, whatever? Yeah, absolutely. We could do that too. The last scenario is creating a payment plan based on, okay, we can spend X today. Let's work on a budget. So maybe in 2 weeks, or maybe it's 3 weeks, or whatever. We can come in and we can do Y, and maybe we take care of the rest of your problems, or maybe it may take 3 visits, depending on how much the car's been neglected. But the other thing we can also set up, when they come in for the next visit, look, get here at 8 o'clock. Where do you work? I'll make sure I get you to work on time. Hey, if you need to come in a little bit early, I'll meet you here a little bit early. We'll make sure you get to work on time. That way it's painless and it's financially feasible for you. Definitely works out all the way around.
Absolutely. I think one of the big takeaways is that one of the things the general public doesn't understand with car repair or car maintenance is that it's an ongoing process. There's always a next service. Very similar to the dentist. I go to the dentist every 6 months for cleanings, and I know every other service for my dentist is an x-ray. It's a continuous service. I know that I don't have to worry about it because my dentist will tell me what service is recommended and what services he's going to provide for me for that day. And he schedules it out for me, and he lets me know exactly what we're going to do and when we're going to do it. We need to follow that same protocol and keep the customers in the loop with the plan, keeping them in date with their services, letting them know what's coming up, what to be expected, and most importantly, they want to know how much is that going to cost them. So if we can do that and educate them and get them trained, your job as a service writer, service manager becomes so much easier. It's just such a rewarding, satisfying thing to have a customer come in and say, "Hi, Mike, I'm here for my 78K service." And don't forget, we were going to go ahead and change that serpentine belt this time. You've done your job right when they come in and it's already pre-sold, or the next services have already been pre-sold and talked about. That's what your goal, and that's what you're trying to accomplish. But it all starts with a good presentation of the repair order.
Keep in mind, one of the last things on here. Keep in mind, you've got to have really good documentation, really good communication between that counter and that desk, so that a very, very clear distinction. Okay, this is what the original request needs. These are the items that are packaged around that they also need. Here's the things that are good. Here are the things that we found on the courtesy check. Here are the maintenance items that I would recommend, so that there's no confusion between the technician, between the counter, and then again between the customer on what the different levels are. And then we can get that documentation on that invoice, so that if they decide not to get everything done, they've got a very clear picture of what they need to do next time when you have that conversation.
That's a great example, George. The technician's process should flow the same as the service process, as far as taking care of the original request first, wrapping any services packages that go along with that, then going through the courtesy check, then going through maintenance. They should flow the same way, so we're all on the same page, saying it in the same manner, and putting it in the right priority. So great point, George.
Matt, do we have any questions out there?
Hey guys, this is me and Allison. I have a question about the CCMs, the courtesy checklist. Do you recommend coming through, with the customer's primary concerns estimate and landing that commitment and then going to the CCM, or how do you interrupt that in? What's your best plan that I can re-communicate to my people?
Okay, well, the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna deal with it in the order, the original request, the items packaged around that. Tell them some good stuff, so they understand that I'm not just here, the angel of death, so to speak. And I'm gonna continue right into the courtesy check, let them know that these are courtesy check items, and then straight into the maintenance. So that when I get done, I'm presenting everything at one time. I don't want to ask you for $300 for let's say water pump. Let's $350 for a water pump. And then I'm going to ask you for, by the way, we need to do a transmission flush because of this, and we need to oil change because of this. And that's going to take you from $350 up to $475. And then, by the way, we also found this on the courtesy check, and that's going to be another $250. The more numbers you start throwing at people, you're going to confuse them.
Mark, I'm in agreement with George too. I think you go through the process, try to sell everything on one at the first shot. Whenever you ask someone, would you like, do you want to, almost the immediate response is no, because they only are concentrating on that original request. They're not thinking about the other items on the vehicle at that time.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Well, one thing I'd like y'all to keep in mind, think of it when you go shopping at a store. Okay, you're there, you got to buy a gift for your mother-in-law. You really want to be there buying a gift for your mother-in-law? No, but you got to get this thing because you don't. You're going to doghouse. Now, the first thing that happens, you walk in the store and you don't know what you want to get your mother-in-law. You don't have the slightest idea what to get your mother-in-law. And here comes somebody and say, "Hey, can I help you?" And you know what? They could help you, but what do you say? Nope, I'm just looking. You don't know what you're looking for. You don't know where to get your mother-in-law. They could have helped you, but what do? You program to say, "Nope, I'm just looking." The customers are going to do the same thing. Give it all to them. Let them see the whole big picture. There's a moral responsibility to let them know that. By the way, if they come in and they need $2,000 worth of work, and that's legit, and you're not going down the dark path, as I call it, it's legit stuff that they really need. Guess what? They need to know that. I think we have a moral obligation to let them know that they're going to need that much work. Maybe they don't need it all today. Okay, maybe they could do some today, some in a month, some in 3 months. But I tell you what, if I knew I had to dump $3 grand or $2 grand into a car over the next 3 or 4 months, I'd want to know that. If you took $500 from me today and you didn't tell me about the other $1,500 I was going to have to dump into the car over the next couple months, and I really didn't like the car, I probably would be upset. So look at it that way. Present everything.
Well, this was just a comment to back up what you guys were saying. last touched on the car and you decided not to talk to somebody about struts or a component that failed, who gets sued?
You got it. Good point, Tony. I love that, Dan. You're right, Tony. Let me ask you a question. How often do you see cars, they come in, maybe they got an old state sticker that was someplace else, and the struts are just terrible? I find that struts just, people don't check them. They don't recommend them. You find that same thing?
Yeah, we do. And the other one is control arms. You know, I work on a lot of Volvos, and the bushings on those, nobody seems to notice. So yeah, the struts and the control arms, and then why did you need to bill me another $1,000? So
yeah, and I think Tony, you're right. I think it's just a fear. I think sometimes we think with our own wallet, or we think, geez, the customer's telling me he doesn't have any money. The customer's telling me all his woe stories, and so I better not go at him with everything that he needs. I'll scare him away. Well, even though there is that risk, I think if you do it correctly, I think if you build the estimate correctly, and then you find out what the customer can and cannot do, then you go ahead and back down and make a good plan for them. Not only are you going to get the sale, you're also going to build some great trust and some great relationships, because at the end of the day, what business are we in? We're in the service business. We're here to solve problems, and that's exactly what you're trying to do. You're trying to solve this customer's problem. So his problem is he thought he had one issue. He now has 5 issues that you brought to him. How do we get these 5 issues resolved and do it in a way that the customer can afford and is comfortable doing? And that's what you're trying to accomplish.
We're not talking about slamming people. That's not the point here. It's time to be polite. And then there's a time when politeness is cowardice. Tell them the truth. They deserve it. I think it's your obligation.
When you're doing that service review, and I mentioned before, you have your full courtesy check of everything that you see that's wrong. So I want to make sure I understand this correctly. You're saying going with a full estimate with everything right there. So, because for us, our estimating process takes a little longer, but you're recommending the whole shoot and match, first shot, and then back down as necessary?
Only exception that I have is on a waiting oil change, where it's pure maintenance to begin with. Okay, they have no complaint per se. That's just they're in for an oil change. They're in for just maintenance. When I do that, then I'm going to go through. Obviously, I'm going to do the oil change, which is the original request. I'm going to do the courtesy check. I'm going to do the maintenance, and I'm going to go through, and I'm not going to rip everything apart. If they're waiting on this car, I'm not going to go through and spend an hour doing a courtesy check, because 1, they're not going to buy. Okay, 2, that's really not what they're there for. They're there for maintenance. Okay, so I'm a big believer in having that courtesy check. It's a quicker form. You're going through. You're checking the tires. You're checking the alignment. You're checking the CV joints. But it's a much quicker process. It's a little bit more streamlined, so that you can let them know what they need now, what they need in the future possibly. But you can get that presentation done and start presenting within 15 minutes of that car coming on the lift. That's a waiting oil change, and that's really not what we're talking about here. We're talking about people come in with complaints. What's that complete process? So that's a great question. Thanks.
Hey, Mark, and just to add on to that, I think sometimes why our service writers and service managers feel anxiety with giving them the full ticket is they feel the customer's stress, they feel the customer's hurriedness, they feel the customer's just one focal point. I think it just makes the service writer feel, okay, I don't have a shot, they're not listening to me, so I'm not even going to bother trying. So you really got to pay attention to that part of it too. And that's where the service writer has to build the trust, find out what kind of buyer what kind of shopper, what kind of buyer we're dealing with, and come at them with that.
The other thing you got to remember too, you can't prejudge people. Okay, we all know that. We all hear that. I had one writer that we went to present, and the car had 2 CV axles that needed to be done. We're getting ready to do the person come in for brakes, and he's starting to present this thing, and he's telling them about the brakes. He's not telling them about the CV axles, which were clicking. Oh man, sound like a mariachi band coming in there clicking so bad. And so before we even did anything, I went to the writer and I said, why did you not talk to this customer about the axles? I mean, we're talking a lot of money here. All you told them about was the brakes. I mean, one, the shop needs to work, and two, they need to know because maybe they don't want to keep the car, or maybe they want to get all the work done. We don't know what's going on. And the writer actually said to me, he goes, they don't have the money. Well, what do you mean they don't have the money? Well, to me, that's a lot of money, and I know that they don't have money either. I said, well, how much money do you have in your pocket? He says, well, I don't have any money in my pocket. I said, here's $1. Now you got 100% more money than you had when you started. Go talk to them, tell them about the axles. Do the right thing next time. Now you're rich. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thanks a lot. We really appreciate you stopping by. This was the audio part of presenting a repair order. We'll follow up on Brian Stash's video. I hope it picked up for you.
Yeah, I hope we were able to clear up some things on how to present a repair order. Hopefully gave you some insight of why they go wrong, and hopefully gave you some insight of what to look for when your service writers and managers are out there giving a presentation, what they're doing well and what maybe they need to work on. And we sure would like to help out any way that we can, so make sure you get a hold of us or get a hold of your coaches to help you out with it.
So this is George Zeeks and
Mike Haley
saying goodbye. Have a good day.
See you guys.